All right, for one final time for me, it's 6:30, so I will call the meeting to order of the Oregon School District Board of Education. It is Monday, April 14th, 2025, and we are here in the OSD Innovation Center at Oregon High School. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Bijak? Here. Dr. Bush?
Here.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuda?
Here.
Mr. Pankratz?
Here.
Ms. Wright?
Here.
Ms. Flanagan?
Present. The board does have a quorum, and I do have from Ms. Heights that this meeting has been duly noticed, so we are good there. Tonight on our agenda, we do have 5 action items. We will be talking about school nutrition, the 25-26 school calendar, and then issuance of contracts for teachers, licensed, non-represented, and administrators. So that is before us tonight, so I will entertain a motion to approve that agenda. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, moving on to our consent calendar. I will read the following donations. We have a $55 donation, which is anonymous, for the splash pad around Jansen Memorial. We have a $5,000 donation for the splash pad from June and John Glennon. We have a $100 donation for the pool from Bob and Letha Schenkenberg, and then a $2,500 donation for the splash pad from Quick Trip. So I wanted to thank those individuals and those entities for their donations to the Oregon School District. We do also have updated before the board, we have some new staffing assignments, and then we do have some retirements and resignations. I did want to recognize Beth Nelson, who is retiring from the Oregon School District after 19 years of service as an OHS science teacher. So we thank Beth for her service to the Oregon School District and wish her well when she retires. All right, that is the consent calendar, so I will entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison? Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Moving on to B, information items. First up is public comment, and we do have some people registered for public comments, so I will read our policy about public comment. District Policy 180.05 provides an opportunity for the public to address the board. We value the public comment period and feedback from our stakeholders. To comply with open meetings law and to ensure consistency, public comment will have the following parameters. Public comment is scheduled for 15 minutes. Speakers will have 3 minutes in which to make their comments, and Ms. Heights will signal the speaker when their time is up. The board will not comment after each speaker and will reserve discussion to any items on the agenda, and speakers are welcome to stay for the meeting. And then next steps following public comment may include referral to the appropriate administrator for follow-up with the speaker or placement of the matter on a future board agenda. So first up is Melissa Slattery. So Melissa, if you want to just come up to the table, state your name and your address, and then you can have your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Slattery. I live at 379 Lynn Trail, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today regarding the proposed 1-hour late start on Mondays and the significant concerns that parents have regarding this proposal. Firstly, the proposed schedule places an undue burden on parents. The new start time of 8:50 with childcare beginning only at 7:50 directly disrupts the routines of working families. Currently, the average bus pickup at 7:30 aligns with over 51% of our community starting their workday at 8 a.m. Parents can see their children onto the bus and then commute to work on time. Under the proposed schedule, parents cannot drop off their children at 7:50 and then make it to work by 8 a.m. This means families will risk job security due to consistent lateness every Monday. Free childcare doesn't alleviate the problem if parents can't get their children there on time. Suggesting that families enroll their children in private childcare is not a viable solution. 20% of our families qualify for free or reduced meals, indicating a financial constraint that additional childcare expenses would be burdensome. This proposal will force these families to choose between their livelihoods and the safety of their children, a position that no parent should be put in. Next, experiences with the Verona School District prove that this model will not serve our students well. Introducing a 1-hour late start every Monday reduces instructional time by 5 days over the school year, an entire week. Even though the board plans to compensate for 2 of those days by reducing staff development days, our students will still lose 3 days of education. Studies show that even small reductions in instructional time negatively impact student achievement. And when we look at the state report cards, Verona School District scores only 66.7 in student achievement. Oregon scores higher at 73.7. These numbers demonstrate that our current approach is more effective in supporting our students' success than the model that's used in Verona. Feedback from parents in Verona highlight further issues. While Verona teachers appreciate the late start for additional planning time during the day, our district does not have a teacher attrition problem. We should not prioritize teacher wants over our children's needs. Moreover, Verona parents state that shortened classes on Mondays prevent teachers from introducing new material, leading to decreased student engagement and progress. Making a significant change that will negatively impact students solely for the convenience of teachers is unacceptable. Our priority must be the educational success and well-being of our students. I urge the board to reject the proposed late start schedule. Instead, let's explore alternatives that support our teachers without compromising instructional time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Steve Zock.
Is this on? Okay. Steve Zock, 330 East Richards Road. I want to spend my time directed to Krista, who tonight is chairing her last board meeting. Congratulations, Krista. As one who walked the same path, I know how bittersweet this moment is. You give so much and make such a difference that I know it's hard for you to leave, but deep down in talking with you, I know it's time for you to move on and let others step into the position. I've had a great pleasure of knowing Krista in a variety of ways and capacities. She's a dear friend. Our families have shared many wonderful moments together over the years. You have a great family, and you don't get to this point without them sharing part of you with the district. So in addition to thanking you, we should also thank Scott, Aaron, and Sean. You're also the one that makes it possible and is responsible for me to annually beat up on my body at St. Joe's annual marathon weekend. I'm wearing some bling because of that. I'm not sure many of you know, or many of the community know, what Krista does in that capacity, but she's one of the key organizers of that event. It's held in Memphis at the St. Jude's Hospital. It's the biggest single one-day fundraiser for the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Last year it raised $16 million. Had over 20,000 runners and thousands of volunteers that Krista organizes. Krista, you're caring for those kids with cancer, and your amazing skill in the performance of your job at St. Jobs makes that result possible. And you bring that same, and you have brought that same level of competence and compassion to public education and to the service of this district. And for that, this community has been the beneficiary of a truly amazing public servant. I had the pleasure of serving with you for 5 years. I learned a lot from you, and I valued each hard conversation we had together, and there were many, and even those that were influenced by your red hair. I watched for 4 years after I left in your presidency with the knowledge of how hard that position is. Most people don't know how hard it is to sit as a board member, and I read community comments all the time, and it's an amazingly hard job to know what your role is as a board member, to learn all the various facets of district governance, to spend time preparing and understanding the issues that come before you. And key is to make decisions when the right answer isn't always available or easy to discern. Being president is even harder, as I learned. It takes a lot of time. Most of it takes place in the background. Making sure meetings are organized and everyone gets heard, driving the board's long-term agenda, having the board, making it into a team, serving as a liaison.
I have to tell you, your time is up. Sorry.
And I will end it with this. You've done it exceedingly well. Congratulations. We're better because you said yes to service.
Thank you. All right, is anyone else here for public comment? Anyone else here for public comment? Okay, thank you. Moving on to OEA report. Is anyone here from the OEA? Okay, and then we do not have a student here tonight, so we're going to move right into action items. So that's C, action item number 1, Wisconsin School Nutrition Purchasing Resolution. So I will turn that over to Dr. Bergstrom.
Actually, that's going to go to Mr. Weiland tonight.
All right, Andy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This should be relatively quick. Basically, this is just a cooperative purchasing agreement. We've been a part of this for a number of years. 6, I think, is what it says. But actually, before Middleton handled this, CISA 2 used to do it for us. And there's, I think, 63 different districts that participate in it. The cost is very minor. But basically, it facilitates bidding our food supply with these 63 districts in a coordinated way. And it basically allows us to take advantage of professionals that are able to purchase food for all of us in a very efficient way so that we get the best pricing for our food service program. So if there's any questions.
Okay, I will open up to the floor for a motion, or if people would like a clarifying question ahead of that. Floor is open. Go ahead, Mary.
Andy, can you remind me, so I know that the annual membership dues are $300, but there's also a statement in here that there will be someone who serves as operator and fiscal agent that is paid for by the co-op. What does the $300 cover?
It just pays for basically our participation in the group. If you look at the budget sheet, the majority of the funds are actually coming from an administrative fee that the suppliers pay to Middleton to basically pay for the professional services to negotiate and get the best pricing from the vendors. So it's $300 is just kind of a token. We basically are a voting member of those 63 districts, but the majority of the fees is actually related to a negotiation that happens with the suppliers that come to the table. So it reduces that fee as well.
All right, any further clarifying questions? Okay, go ahead, Caleb.
Do we have a sense, I was looking through and I can't find it now because I was reading it electronically and I didn't highlight it. But do we have a sense how there is any of this potentially at risk due to the loss of federal funding? Because I know that there's mention of the USDA and other federal agencies in here in some of the documents. And I know that there are funds that are potentially at risk that have to do with some of the food programs, but I didn't know if this was one of those or if this is something else.
So it's not directly related to this contract, but there is a question out there. But to the best of our knowledge, we understand that what you're talking about from the federal level is more related to our title programs than to the food service program. So right now, things can change, but right now we believe that the USDA program that helps provide a significant portion of our funding for food service is safe.
Could I ask a follow-up? A quick follow-up? So the title programs, would that potentially include some of the funds that are set aside for like free and reduced lunches and those kinds of things?
No.
No.
The title programs are more related to math, science, teacher training,
Okay.
ESL, those types of things.
Okay. Thank you.
Heather, I think you had a question?
Yep, just a quick question. I see a long list of participants in this program.
Yep.
Are any other schools opting in, opting out? Is it business as usual for the same participants?
I think it's pretty much business as usual. I haven't heard of anybody moving around.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion if people would like to put one on the floor.
I'll move to approve agenda item C1, the school nutrition purchasing resolution.
All right, is there a second? I would second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Katie, could you please call the roll?
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thanks, Andy. Okay, moving on to action item 2, which is the 2025-2026 school calendar. And because that emanated from Policy Committee, I will turn that over to Dr. Lakuta.
Thank you. Yeah, as I know many in the community are aware, there was a recommendation brought to Policy Committee to implement a late start every Monday during the school year. The goal of this is to support student-centered learning. That's always the goal of what the administration looks for and what the board looks for. And the rationale for this is multifold. National data show that PLCs specifically promote effective teaching strategies that allow educators to adapt to the changing needs of every student cohort in real time, really. And it leads to better instruction. It fosters improved teaching practices, and ultimately the goal is to enhance student learning. A key takeaway from the Professional Sustainability Task Force that was conducted last year was that PLCs afforded the opportunity for educators to come together collaboratively, to regularly assess their collective educational practices, their approaches, and achieve better results for the students that they served. And that was really the single biggest lesson learned during the pandemic, coming out of the teaching, the changes to the teaching structure. So the district has actually worked to incorporate PLCs into the school day. And there are significant challenges with that approach. Because there are students in the building, the educators really have to prioritize the students that are in the building. And so quite often they are an incomplete team. They don't have uninterrupted focus time for the collaboration. So as a result, the policy committee voted to implement a calendar that includes this focused PLC time. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. I appreciate that really, really good introduction because it touched on a lot of the very relevant points for the conversation this evening, which really starts with our Readiness for Learning framework. It includes the 6 components that we believe are really critical to learning, and the ones in orange are the ones that we've been focusing on this year. So the last time we met as a board, we spoke about the focus and engage learning, and we discussed the cell phone policy. And this time, we're talking about high-quality collaborative teaching, and we're looking at a 1-hour late start so that teachers can engage together, all of the professionals together in professional learning communities in service of timely and responsive instruction. And it was really important to us that we had an opportunity to engage with our community because we truly, truly believe it's one of our values and we believe it. And that is when we are working together, the families, the community, and the school district, that's when we make really good things happen for our kids. And the feedback we've gotten or we received after our engagement sessions was definitely that people wanted another opportunity to share a little bit about what they were thinking. And the option of an early release was brought up several times by people who were giving feedback. And we wanted to make sure that we were exploring all of the possibilities. And therefore, we sent out a survey to get a little bit more information after we had already had our engagement sessions. So about this survey, it was open from 3/27 to 4/7. We sent out a couple of reminders, and really the main point here, as you can see with that information on the screen, is that we had a really, really solid response rate. As a matter of fact, the response rate was 50%, and the survey itself focused on 3 specific things, and that is who says that they will absolutely need childcare, what transportation barriers are families facing, and then we ask people their preference related to late start and early release. So before I get into the results of the survey, I wanted to make sure that people who were listening, and certainly people on the board tonight, but I know many of you were at the policy committee meeting, why is administration continuing to recommend the 1-hour late start on Mondays for dedicated PLC time starting in the upcoming school year? First, it's important to note that it's very clear to all of us that this is a heavy lift for families. And we do not take that lightly. And we know that we are asking for a lot. And we also know that there are very valid reasons to wait. There really are. And those reasons can't be disputed. But I'm also going to say tonight that I feel there are really compelling reasons to move forward in 25-26. We know our educators are the difference makers. We've said that all along, and they do make a difference. The evidence is in our test scores. It is in our state report card. And it certainly is in the celebrations you see in the superintendent's report, and we've got a great one coming up tonight. And we need to continue to get better. We need to improve for all kids, and very specifically, we need to improve for our students who access IEPs, our students who are multilingual, and our students who are Black and Hispanic. All kids, and then some kids in particular, we really need to do better for. And we do believe that the path forward to better involves collaboration, the teachers collaborating weekly minimum in order to be able to offer timely and responsive instruction. And we know that our schedule is set up to be able to do this, and we try really hard to make that happen. However, the needs of the students are always first, and therefore teams, similar to what Dr. Lakuta said, teams do not get everybody to the table. And we're not able to be as effective as we know we can be on behalf of our students. So as a system, I just want to put out there, we'd be grateful for any timeline that would bring this to fruition for our students, because this really is about what we want for our students and how we make that happen. We want to make the difference for kids. I feel a sense of urgency. I feel that urgency because kids only get one chance at first grade or fifth grade or ninth grade or whatever it happens to be. And we all want that time to be as fruitful and as meaningful as possible. And we know what can do that. We just need a system and structure that allows us to do it to the best of our ability. So when we look at our late start survey results, and for people at home, this is available on the website in the board packet. You see that when we asked our K-6 families about their childcare needs in a late start situation, you see that of the families who responded, and it was approximately just a little over 1,000 families, 551 said they do not need care, and 258 said that they did. And then we have about 261 that are in there as maybe, but I have some other options to explore. And what I think is really important to note is that this is a response rate that was much higher than other surveys that we put out. So we did have an excellent response rate, but it still was 50%. So we have to think about that when we look at these numbers. However, even with the response rate of 50%, we feel confident that we can meet the needs of people who say that they really need childcare. Now, let's look at transportation needs under this late start umbrella. And I think the most important one to look at is the line where it says, I have no option. That's the line that we zero in on, because that's the line that's most critical for our families. So then you take a deeper look at that particular group of people, or the group of respondents. So there were 46 respondents, but then they actually represented 36 households. And you can see on the screen how that all breaks down. I won't go through every line. It's on the screen. You already, you can see it very clearly. So I'm going to move to 712, because if you took the survey, you know that it branches off so that you can answer individually for your students, because you may have some in some grades and some in others. So when we look at 712, once again, because we're not offering childcare for our students in grades 7 through 12, the key question for this group is related to transportation. And you can see in this situation, we have a total of 29 who are saying that they do not have an option. So when you further break that down, excuse me, I didn't have that one down there. You'll see that it's approximately 3% of the total. And that's thankfully a fairly small amount, but it doesn't feel small to the people who are struggling with what is my option. I'll move to early release. So for childcare, for K-6, you can see that slightly fewer families need care for an early release. So it was down about 50 families or so. But when you move into transportation, you see for an early release, there are actually more families who say they have no option. Then it becomes 67. Fewer need care, but more people say they have no option for transportation. So when you break that down, you can see that it's about 50 households in total. And there were 67 responses, and of those 67, it's 50 different households, and how that breakdown works. And then when you look at 712, once again, you have 13 families in the early release situation who say they have no option. And that's really the lowest number of all of that. So we looked at who needed childcare, can we meet those needs, and we believe we can, and then who needs transportation. And while I don't think we have an easy solution for the families who need transportation, we are looking at how we can be of some level of assistance, with the understanding that this proposal is meant to be a cost-neutral proposal, and we're not trying to recreate our transportation system for two different routes. I wish we could afford to do that, but we simply cannot. So when you look at the overall preference, you can see here what it was. Late start had a slight edge over early release related to families. And I know some families really wanted to see an open-ended response on this survey, but what they were given is the link to add it to the feedback form that we've had on the website for a couple of months now, so that we could keep all of our feedback in one particular place. It makes it much easier to look for trends. So that is the end of the survey information, which was really something that was very important to all of us, but the board in particular. They simply wanted more info from our families.
Okay, so because it did come from policy, it does not need a second, so the floor is now open for discussion. So go ahead, Leslie.
Leslie, I'm hoping that you, for the people at home, or those who might not know, explain what the difference is in what we're planning on doing with our PLCs in the morning versus, say, what a planning period would be.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. That's a really important question. So teams need to have planning meetings, right? They need to be able to plan out things that are going to happen related to their teams, to their field trips, to what they're doing with the students on a Friday morning. All of those things are very important, and they need time to plan that out. But that is not what we're talking about with this particular time set. The late start will be devoted to the work of a PLC, which is about collaboratively learning together, focusing in on the student work and what instructional moves need to be made based on what students are learning and what they're not, and how are we going to adjust for that, and how are we going to ensure that we can personalize for all of the students and their needs. Very different, the two pieces, a PLC versus a team meeting.
Okay, other questions, discussion? Go ahead, Heather.
Dr. Bergstrom, thank you for this. I was really happy to see this in our policy committee meeting and again tonight. One of my many questions is on 4K and the timing of how, our 4K families and partners have registered prior to when we had the survey and the recommendation to do this. And can you just talk a little bit about how those families will be impacted and the staff and our partners will be impacted?
Thank you. We've had a lot of conversations with our partners, because if we make this change, currently our 4K partners offer 4K Monday through Thursday. And if we had a late start Monday, it would influence the number of instructional minutes, and any compensation we'd have to make for that would influence busing times. So when we spoke to our 4K partners about what we were thinking, we asked them to think through options And then our 4K director, Lindsay Engelhart, met with each site to talk through, would they rather do keep the Monday through Thursday and do adjustments to the times that we offer 4K in order to meet instructional minutes? Or would they rather wait, or would they rather make a change and have 4K be Tuesday through Friday? And I think all but one of our sites said that when they looked at the pros and cons of both options, they would prefer Tuesday through Friday for 4K. So that's important to note for there was a lot of collaboration there. But our 4K families, unless they have children who are already in the district, they don't have a lot of information necessarily about this particular piece yet. Because when they had their information night, that was mid-January, when a lot of these plans weren't public consumption plans yet. They were really just conversations about what was possible. So they don't have that information, and they're not technically in Infinite Campus as a registered user yet, so they haven't been getting all of the same information unless they have children who are already in the school system and then they've received everything.
Go ahead, Heather.
Just a quick follow-up to that, and then somebody else can ask a question. So do we know if the partners have communicated with the families, or because I guess my concern is there are 153 kids coming into 4K, that now it's good to hear that the partners seem to be able to manage it, but now we've got 153 kids, maybe fewer families, right? I guess if we've got twins, that are now having to shift their day. This isn't even just an hour, but their day of the week. So do we know if anything, have we directed or have the partner centers communicated to the incoming families?
Well, I don't think the partner centers have indicated anything because the decision hasn't been made yet. However, what I'll say is not all of our partner centers offer wrap care. Right. If the families require wrap care, then the partner centers would be able to meet the need of the Monday through to Friday shift. However, for our families who go to a 4K center and perhaps they have childcare through different means, like a home care center or something like that, that they would need to be working out between now and the start time of September.
Go ahead, Leslie.
This is just kind of a follow-up on the same thing. Heather noted that there's 153 4K students coming in. And you mentioned that some of them may have other brothers or sisters that are already in the district. Do you know what that kind of percentage looks like of students that have already other siblings in the district versus those that would be brand new to the district?
I can probably find that out pretty quickly, but I don't have that off the top of my head. How many people are first-time parents in the 4K world? I bet it's at least 50%. But that's a guess.
Other questions, comments? Go ahead, Mary.
Excellent. Can you just talk, do you know, are there any neighboring districts who have actually implemented PLCs in their school days?
I think most districts would say that they're utilizing PLCs within their school day. I think it's a well-known common practice. I think what gets very challenging about it is the exact thing that we're bumping up against, which is how do you include all educators in the process when we really don't have, and we shouldn't have, our focus is students, but when we don't have uninterrupted time during the school day. And I'll also say that historically, other districts, and certainly us too, and I think we're getting to a much, much better place with this, have struggled with the distinction between what Leslie mentioned previously, and that is what is a team meeting versus what is a PLC. Because team meetings are critical for functioning, but they don't move academic achievement forward. The PLC process is what has the research backing it regarding moving academic achievement forward. And that's what I think a lot of districts get stuck on, and one of the things that we've been working really hard to delineate between the two and talk about what actually moves the needle and what's just an important part of daily housekeeping.
Can you talk about how the success of the program will be measured?
Absolutely. Of course, because this is an effort focused on increasing student achievement, the student achievement measures would be one of our primary areas of focus, right? How are we going to measure this? Are our students' achievement scores increasing? That is important. But we also are a whole child district. And so it's never just about that. It's about overall well-being. So we will, of course, be monitoring, as we always do, our panorama scores and other areas that are really critical to how are our kids actually doing, in addition to attendance and tardies and behavior referrals, because very often when kids aren't in a routine, but I believe this would become routine quite quickly, when students aren't in a routine, we do understand that that leads to dysregulation, and so we would be monitoring that. But as I said, I think this could become routine rather quickly. In addition, we would be looking at surveys for our families and for our staff, because we want to better understand how this is impacting people as we move forward. Less about what we think might be the impact and more about what actually is the impact.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bergstrom. I had a follow-up question. So I know that, there are a number of special needs students who really rely on routine and routine schedules. What sort of accommodations could be made for those students?
Well, I think that the childcare portion of the morning would become routine. I don't think it's that children can never have anything change ever. I just think we have to be mindful about what the changes are, the impact of the students, impact on students, and adjust. And that's really what PLCs are about, monitoring the impact we as adults and our decisions have on our students, and then making the adjustments.
Go ahead, Heather.
Are we asking questions or are we commenting? Floor is open. Okay, great. I want to say out loud that the idea of a PLC I'm supportive of, but I want to move to amend the current motion of a Monday morning late start for implementation in the 26-27 school year. The reason for this is I think it's healthy for our board to discuss this in greater detail, given the feedback that we've heard from the community, whether that's in emails, listening sessions, feedback forms, surveys, public comments. I'm struggling with the timeline, given part of the 4K situation and given that we're in middle of April with the September timeline. So again, I'm going to move to amend the current motion of a Monday morning late start for implementation in the 26-27 school year.
All right, do we have a second on that amendment? Can I second that? Absolutely, you can. All right, we have a motion and a second. So now the floor is open for discussion on the amendment, which is the board-approved calendar A for the 26-27 school year, which includes a 1 hour late start every Monday for educator professional learning community. So discussion is relevant to that. Go ahead, Anna.
So I want to better understand that, because one of the, I know during policy we talked about, are we too close to the start of next school year to implement this change, given the information we're hearing from families on daycare arrangements and 4K schedules, those types of things. And my concern with that, I have a couple of things. One is that, we're implementing this change through voting on a calendar, and next year's dates are going to be different. We're not necessarily going to have the same winter break, the same, it's going to be a different calendar. So I feel like we're either talking about a motion to recommend or move forward with a late start Monday for the school year, and then the calendar would be built upon that with that understanding. But we still need to adopt a calendar for this year. So I just want to, clarify the intent of the motion, because I think it's two different things. I think it's a motion to implement late start starting in that calendar year, and then a separate motion on a different calendar if we're not going to implement for next year.
Okay, so I
My-
think that's a point of order, so I'm going to turn to Gina in terms of how you would like the board to proceed given Anna's point.
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, then I would say the board would vote on the amendment. And should that pass, then we would need a different motion on what the 25-26 calendar is. Does that address your question? No?
No, because next year's calendar wouldn't have the same dates for, like, the calendar right now has specific dates for winter break and spring break, and those things aren't necessarily the same dates for 26, 27. It would just be the late start.
Correct. So,
Okay, I don't know, I heard that the motion was to adopt calendar A, which has specific dates for spring break, specific start and end dates for the school year, specific winter break dates. So I guess I don't know that we can take action on a motion for a calendar for next year, not this coming year, but the following year when it's different dates. I think we need to take action on a late start Monday as a standalone, because the dates for the 26-27 year are not the same, right?
okay. So I understood the motion as amending the start date for the late start, which then you would have to separate that out from the calendar for the 25-26 school year.
And so what could have happened is I could have read that wrong. So let's go back to the motion maker. Is your intent a 26-27 calendar, which includes, and so I'm the one that inserted calendar A into your amendment, and that was not correct.
Right. My amendment did not have calendar A in it. So
So
I'm,
that's my mistake.
yeah, okay.
Okay,
But
so are we kosher?
Just to clarify, if then we would still vote on the calendar for 25-26 as a secondary piece.
Correct.
Okay.
That's how I,
Okay, so the discussion on the floor right now is a late start with a 26-27 start. That is what we are discussing as per the amendment that's on the floor. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, thank you, and I'm sorry if I caused confusion. I wanted to make sure that we were good. Okay, good. Now I'm there. Okay, so I will admit this has weighed heavily on me because I understand the lift for families. I also recognize the opportunity that is before us to make a difference in reducing the achievement gap of our kids and increasing achievement. And so this is a very difficult decision to make, given the ask of our families, but at the same time knowing what it can do for education for our learners and some of our learners who we really are intentional about reducing that achievement gap. So I am torn on the amendment because I am thinking about, as a district, we have how many students? 4,000, is it? Or 4,000 and some? 4,300 students. So we have 4,300 students in this district that presumably will benefit from enhanced and elevated education in their classroom. We also have families who have registered for 4K on information on a schedule that they were told is going to be the schedule, and they've made arrangements for those childcare. And it could be as many as 150. It may not be that many, but it's like weighing these two pieces of, are we holding back an opportunity for 4,300 students when there are still 4 months between now and September for families to adjust and make some changes. I'm really torn. So I'm just wanting to, that's kind of where I'm at on the amendment.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Go ahead, Heather.
Anna, I appreciate that this wasn't an easy, churn out an amendment. I want to say a couple comments of what you're saying. I understand the 4K numbers versus the total students aren't in parallel. I just think as a district, this is their first introduction, likely for many, half-ish. It's their first introduction to Oregon School District, but this isn't just about 4K. I also think, we're toward the end of a school year. We've got staff going on summer break as they should, right? And now, so it isn't like it's 4 months of prep time for leading up to a September PLC start. I also want teachers, staff, et cetera, in addition to families who outside of 4K may have made their plans already, on next year's kind of childcare and work schedules and routines. So certainly 4K is a big element of it, but I think there are also other things that weigh heavily on my mind, and that's why I made the amendment. So it isn't about it not being important. It isn't about, that, oh, 1 more year, no big deal. It's just, if we're having this conversation in November, December, January, this very conversation, that feels a lot different to me than having it now in the middle of April. So I just wanted to give some background on my thought. I don't know if that helps or not, but there it is.
Go ahead, Anna.
So I guess I would ask, there's been a ton of time and energy put into this, and surveys of families and discussions about this. I'm curious from the administration to get a reaction to that, as far as what that may mean, what that looks like, and I guess what additional information would we be able to seek or, I guess, modify with more time, if anything. So I'd be curious to know what that might look like, what that may mean, and get a reaction from you on that amendment.
As I said previously, we would be grateful for any opportunity to do what we think is the right thing to do for kids. So we certainly aren't going to be completely disappointed by a 26-27 beginning, right? We want to do what we believe is the right thing for improving our instruction and the students' learning experiences. So we're grateful for what you're able to decide, as long as it's still in play. Do I think that we'll be gathering more information? No, I think we'll be sharing more information so that people have a full year plus to make decisions. We don't necessarily need more information. Our staff doesn't need any more information. That's not the issue. Our issue is about our families and making sure that we're responsive to them. But as I said previously, I do feel a sense of urgency, and that's why I made the recommendation that I made.
Go ahead, Heather.
Anna, we should just sit next to each other and have a chat. I want to just piggyback on what Dr. Bergstrom said, because I think I love that you're bringing it back to students and families. I think that's so important, and that's how this all, began in service of that. What I also like about this potential 26-27 piece is not that we have to find out more data for a survey, but that it's more time for the district to work with families maybe that we haven't heard from, even though thankfully it seems like the childcare option can support, if we did that, or building community partnerships, or figuring out some other things to help ease the burden on families. It's not that for 1 second I think our teachers and staff aren't incredible and couldn't put in effort. I just think it sets us up better for success in service of our students, and I think that it helps. How can we help navigate this with our families, doing that work and understanding who we've heard from, what they need specifically, right? This is kind of, it's big picture and really drilling down, and then also who haven't we heard from, or what kids or families are out there that we're not figuring it out. Does it give families time to come together and figure out how we support each other as not Oregon Village, but as a community village, right? And so those are just things that I'm thinking about, as well as the other things that I mentioned.
Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the school board at large feels very strongly in support of PLCs, that there is data out there to really support that this is something that we should bring into the district to in service of our learners, really. And I genuinely appreciate all of the work that has gone into assessing how best to implement it. I mean, the survey results actually, I was very heartened by the data. They align with the recommendations from the administrative team. I think that pushing it out a year really provides just that additional runway that I think our families need to work out the logistics, and that's true of 4K, and it's true of K through 12. So I'm supportive of pushing it out a year, in spite of the fact that we are probably missing out on an opportunity for our learners.
All right, other board members that have not spoken yet. Go ahead, Caleb.
So I've been sitting and kind of, I like to take things in and think and come up with my ideas. I have questions that speak, I think, to other issues besides the amendment, but I'll hold on to those for now, and just say that this has been a tough thing to discuss and to figure out how to address and solve. And I know that as a board, as an administration, as school leaders, as community members, that I'm confident that we can do this and that we can work together and make this happen. And I was prepared because it was coming out of the policy committee and had the policy committee support. I was prepared to support the amendment because they're my colleagues. They've done the work. It was their recommendation. And now I feel very conflicted because it seems that the policy committee is now saying that their decision they're changing the dates on the decision. So now I don't really know exactly how I feel, other than that I support the idea, but am troubled by the change, I guess, and don't know exactly what to make of it, just because of it. I was prepared to support the committee's decision, and now it seems like the committee's decision is not the committee's decision, and I don't know how to feel about that.
I'm going to turn that over to the policy committee to chair for her to respond, and then I'll come to you, Leslie.
There was a lot of conversation at the policy committee meeting on Thursday. It is a very difficult decision to make. There are pros and cons for both sides. There were a few last minute emails that were shared to all of the board members in the last, 12 hours or so, which really shined a light on several of the challenges in the 4K arena with regard to childcare and the logistics around that. Just brought to, it's been a while since I had a child in childcare. And so I had to step back and think about, how long it was before I needed childcare, that I needed to contract for it. So that was what really made me change my mind, was some of the emails that I got very recently.
Go ahead, Leslie.
So I'd just like to clarify for you, Caleb, that it's not the policy committee changing its mind. This is Mary choosing to support the amendment. I, for one, am torn because I do feel the compassion for the 4K families that were told one way. But whenever I look at max, like we're talking about, okay, I'm even going to go on the plus side of that. Say it's 160 families that have an issue compared to the 4,300 students that we're talking about getting benefit from this, and not putting it off. I mean, we have been hashing this out for 6 months. And yes, would I, in an ideal world, love for this to be January that we were having this conversation? Yeah, absolutely. But I really don't want us to take all the stuff that we've really worked hard on and then just not act on it for another year and a half. And I mean, yes, we would be acting on it tonight as far as making a decision, but it wouldn't be implemented for a year and a half. And I feel like I can support that. I feel like I would have to be a no on the amendment because I feel like we've worked so hard, and I feel like the weight of how many families could be affected in a positive manner versus the difficulties that we will work through as a district. We will work through with our families, and I know that our administration works hard with our families to help them find solutions. So I see that as not negligible, because they are individual families that will have to figure out something to do. But looking at the mass good, I would have to say no on this amendment.
Okay, go ahead. Troy?
It's a really good discussion. Very, very difficult decision. We've been through many, many meetings, evaluated this for a very long time. So I'll just weigh in as to where I'm at today. Every time that one of our educators comes to speak to us, as we hear our school reports, we hear from all of our professionals, we always ask the question, we often ask the question of them, what can the board do for you? What else could we give you to help you provide a better education for our children? Almost always the answer is we need more time together. We need time to collaborate with each other. And I relate this to my work. I work in professional services, and I think about how easy it is for my teams at work to collaborate and to be able to, walk down the hall and ask a question and collaborate and say, hey, help me with the answer to this really challenging problem I'm working on. And our teachers just don't have the ability to do that in a normal school day because they are taking care of our kids. Kids come first, right? So I really value the PLC concept. I'm able to relate that to my day job and understanding how impactful that can be. And I guess I go to what is the purpose of our school district. Our school district, I believe, is to provide high quality instruction in the best way that our professional educators see how to do it. And so I feel that my role as a board member is to support that in the best way that I can. And that's not to discount I recognize the challenges for families, the disruption that this has for some families, and that certainly weighs on my mind. But I believe that the payback for the disruption is better outcomes for all of our students. And we have some very lofty goals for student achievement, some very, very lofty goals that we're striving to achieve. So I feel compelled to support this for 25-26. I feel the sense of urgency. I as Dr. Bergstrom said, our students only have one chance at first grade, and if we know how to do something to the best of our ability, I'm going to support doing that. So I'm inclined to support the initial proposal to move forward in 25-26.
Any other discussion on 26-27? Okay, I'll share where I'm at. And part of it's a point of order. If someone would vote yes on a 26-27 amendment, and that passed, they would have the right to potentially bring that, if more work was done on this at some point in time in 25-26, would a board member have the ability to bring to the president that they would like to reconsider the motion so that this could be implemented at an earlier date?
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So if they vote yes for 26-27, then could they do a motion to reconsider and then implement 25-26
So
instead?
earlier than the start of 26-27.
I see. And are you saying tonight or in the future?
In the future.
So under Robert's rules, and I'd have to think through that you have, in order to do a valid motion to reconsider, it has to be at the next applicable meeting, and you had to vote in favor.
Okay.
Now, what'll be interesting is that we won't have the same board after tonight. So that's my answer today. But I need to look and see if having different, a new board changes that. I don't believe so, but I would want to double check, but it wouldn't be applicable until next meeting.
Okay.
But yes.
So here's where I'm at. All things being equal, I think we all agree that PLCs are the way to go. The world has changed. Families are under so much more stress than they've been. And talking about, we are a community where a lot of our families work in state government, work in federal government, work in healthcare. Those jobs are really under attack right now. And so I really say to myself, I understand PLCs, but this is such a burden for some of our families that they're dealing with their jobs right now and what they need to do. And now we've added something on top of that. Personally, I feel like this could be done sooner than 26, 27. So I'm not sure where I would vote on this, but I just don't think in the next 3 months, this school district should put an additional burden on our families. That's where I'm at. And I think there's also opportunity with a little bit longer runway to address that the school district doesn't have to do everything ourselves, but there's opportunities for partnerships with other entities or families or groups in our community. This community has always stepped up when we've asked them to. And for those families like we've heard about tonight where they maybe could do childcare, but there's still that hour window. I look at my neighborhood, the bus comes at 7:05. And when that bus comes, it picks up kids and parents can go work in Madison and get there by 8 o'clock. If they want transportation, that transportation's now not going to come till 8:05, right? If they want childcare, that childcare doesn't start till 8:05. So what do those parents do for that hour that gets them to their job in Madison? They do not have a solution. And I'm not saying it's the school district's responsibility to provide that solution, but there are people that could help the school district provide that solution. And I'm not sure that can be done in the next 3 months. So I'm just going to throw some things that I've mentioned before in terms of why this is a really hard decision. And this is why we have board meeting discussions. And it's good that we're having problems with this because it means we care. We care about the growth and achievement of our kids, and we care about our families. So does anybody else have any other discussion before that motion goes to a vote? Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, I want to, I guess, talk about what you just described as far as the potential of implementing sooner than, say, the 26, 27 calendar, but perhaps not starting in September of 25. Is the thinking that if this were brought back for a different, say it doesn't pass this evening and we are not implementing something, or say the amendment passes for 26, 27 late start. And we all think about it and we go, gosh, it would be so great if we could start that like after the winter break in 2027, right? So January 27, so mid-year. What does that look like? Is that an option or is that not an option? I'm looking at administration, wondering if we don't make a decision tonight, we're too late for 25, 26, in my opinion, right? We're already talking about it's not enough time. So if we're not talking about something in September, but we're talking about sooner than 2026, the only option would be mid-year. And so I guess I'm curious to get a reaction to that because that to me seems also extremely challenging.
I think the logistics for a mid-year implementation would be challenging once again for our 4K families because it would be about do we start the year with a Monday or a Tuesday through Friday schedule and then we just don't implement anything, but then we still put the childcare switch burden on them already, right? Or we can't switch in the middle of the year from a Monday, Friday to Monday, Thursday to a Tuesday, Friday. We can't do that to the mid-year. That's just too much to ask.
I guess I would have a question about that. What it's, I mean, you're changing it. And so how different is that from doing a September change to a January change when it's a change?
Well, I think people usually set up their childcare for the year. So what we'd be asking people to do is to set it up for a semester and be prepared to switch it a semester. And we'd have to have the childcare centers, the 4K centers, be prepared with their staffing to switch also. And so I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that the logistical burden would be 4K connected as opposed to the other schools. I think we'd be able to make that work.
Go ahead, Mary.
So, yeah, it's been a long time since I had to engage with contracting for childcare. Do you know how the contracts, is there a specific time of year that they generally are signed, or is it just based on birthday? Because my recollection is that it was based on birthday, and so every family has a different contract period, but.
Well, 4K is birthday. But as far as childcare goes, I'm not sure how people go about setting their contracts for the year. Sure. But if we were to start the school year by not putting a burden at all on our 4K families, that would mean that the children would go to 4K Monday through Thursday. And if we were to switch in the middle of the year and they would go from Tuesday through Friday, that we'd have to assume that our 4K centers could make the staffing switches for the wraparound care. And we'd have to assume that the families would be able to switch mid-year with their home care. So those are assumptions that we haven't investigated, so I really don't know the answers to them.
But if we were to give them the runway of making the decision, whether it's tonight or next month or whatever, that gives them a pretty long lead time to make those accommodations.
Certainly more than they have now, yes.
Further discussion? Okay, so the what is before us for a vote is we are just voting on 26-27 school year, which would include a 1-hour late start every Monday for educational professional learning communities. Is that correct, Gina? Yes. Okay. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
No, it was Mary.
It was Mary.
I apologize.
Yes.
She seconded.
Make sure you.
Yeah, you're right. Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
No.
Dr. Bush?
No.
Mr. Pankratz?
No.
Ms. Wright?
No.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes. Motion is defeated, 3-4. Floor is open for the original motion. Heather.
I'd like to make an amendment. Anna, you started talking about what my kind of plan B was for this, and so I'm moving to amend the current original motion of a Monday morning late start for implementation on January 5th of 2026, which is the first day back of the new, right after winter break. This amendment is a compromise that fits both sides, right, of wanting to move forward with that academic achievement and doing what's best for students, but also providing additional time for families. And while it may be a change for 4K, it is still just a one-time change. It is just farther out and less of a full year of, an abrupt change for September, knowing that they registered in December for that timing. So again, I'll repeat since that was a lot. I'm moving to amend the current motion of a Monday morning late start for implementation on January 5th of 2026.
I would second that, but I have a question. Is that okay?
Let's second it. So we have a motion and a second. Now the floor is open for discussion. Go ahead, Leslie.
Gina, with this motion, the amendment that's on there, how will that affect any other parts of the calendar second semester?
Yes, because we wouldn't have enough minutes to include all of the 4 professional developments. So I take that back. So calendar A, we would be fine in terms of minutes. So I take that back. I was thinking about B. So calendar A, as in your packet with a January start, we would be fine in terms of minutes. Because I was planning on having 34 late starts, with January 5th, I think it would be, I'm guessing 19 late starts. So we would be fine.
Would we need to add in any PD days on the first half?
We could, but we don't need to.
I want to ask a question on that. Sorry, so wouldn't it be, I know it's not exactly half, right, because January 5th isn't necessarily the middle, but wouldn't we have one PD day in the spring still available to us during the school year and not the other that we would have if we didn't do any late start?
If you wanted to add a PD day back in, you certainly could. You'd have enough minutes. But that isn't calendar A or B, so we'd have to
Right, okay.
figure that out.
But so if this amendment were to go forward and we then had to go back to the calendar, it is an easy thing to adjust to add calendar-wise to we could add a professional day in, right? Because we're only doing roughly half the year of late start.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Okay, so this, I think my broader question is applicable here, so I'm going to throw it out there and see if it is applicable. This is the question that I had about the plan in its original intent. My understanding, and this is my recollection, is that the way that the calendar had been developed, the calendar A versus calendar B, in terms of its impact on instructional minutes, was that there was a loss of PD days with calendar A compared to calendar B in order to give the same amount of instructional time from one calendar to the next, right? So in terms of the impact of the PLCs, there was not any like effective impact on instructional time, classroom time, right? That was my original question, because that was brought up earlier. And I think it's an important thing to point out that doing this, whether we started in September or we started in January, the calendar that was developed took into account the importance of classroom time and instructional time.
So I would say in terms of calendar A, if we did a September start, then there are 34 late starts. So that's 34 hours of instruction that is changed to PLC time. So to accommodate that, then we took 2 PD days out of the student calendar. Those will be moved outside the student calendar. So you will gain 2 instructional days, which is about 14 hours of instruction. So there are fewer instructional minutes with doing the late start the full year.
Go ahead, Heather.
Dr. Bush, just to clarify, because when you say losing PLC days, it doesn't mean that, just confirming, nobody is losing PD days. Nobody is losing PD days. They're just getting moved outside of the school year calendar. So I just want to make that statement clear that this doesn't affect the net PD days. It's just the timing of when they are.
I'll just jump in really quickly and say that, yeah, I think I just worded it poorly, which I am prone to do. So yeah, that's a good correction.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment? Anna.
My hesitation with this is, again, I think, given the mid-year change, and not presenting that through any of our information, I'm a little hesitant on what that may look like for families to adjust mid-year. I'm really struggling with that. And so I feel like, and I don't know how we would get the answer to that. I'm just in my mind sort of thinking through what are the ripple effects, what are the unintended consequences of this mid-year change that I don't think we have fully vetted as a board. And so I'm really struggling with the ability to support this because I just don't know a lot of questions come to mind that I don't know that we'll have answers to tonight for this type of amendment. So as it stands, I don't I don't think I'll be supporting this because I'm struggling with what the unintended consequences may include related to it.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay. Oh, go ahead. Mary, under the gun here.
I have a, point of order. So if the amendment goes through, then do we need to figure out what the calendar looks like and identify whether we're going to add a PD day back, et cetera?
I can certainly make a recommendation based on the discussions we've had as a team. I can do that. I think I'll stop with that.
I think the board looks to you for, I mean, if you've got something that's relevant information associated with the amendment, that should be shared as an administrative person who's in charge of the calendar.
So my hesitation is, I echo Dr. Bergstrom that would be extremely grateful for any time and implementation. So I am hesitant to share what I'm thinking, but my hesitation is that it's a very big change that impacts our 4K partners, our transportation contractors, and our teachers, particularly if the change is January 5th and not at semester. And so, because we do have semester courses. And so it's hard to know what to recommend to you because we have such a history of collaborating with our partners and working with them and getting their feedback. And I don't know what our 4K partners would say about the feasibility of changing a schedule mid-semester. You know, I think parents, and I was a 4K parent that I did wrap care, so it wouldn't have mattered to me because I had that 40 hours of week care because that was what my job required. But if I didn't, I don't know what that looks like. And we haven't had that opportunity to talk to our partners. And that's just, at least in my 12 years here, that hasn't been the way that we have operated as a district. So I also think our partners are amazing and they make lots of things work all the time. So those are my thoughts right now. But in terms of where the PD day goes, I feel really comfortable that I could recommend that because we do such collaborative discussions as a team. So those are my thoughts.
Go ahead, Heather.
I appreciate that and thank you for sharing. I just want to be a couple of things I just want to be clear on. One, I don't have a kid going into 4K, so in case that, and honestly, a late start for me personally would be manageable. It's not a simple thing, but it would be manageable. So I just want to say the things that I'm saying in the spirit of this have nothing to do with what's right for my family, as the rest of the board is in thinking about the district-wide burden, or the burden on families district-wide. I completely appreciate that none of you would want to be like, great, we're doing it, and 4K and transportation, you're just going to figure it out. I completely applaud and want the collaboration to continue. I guess where I'm at is clearly there's a lot of thinking and you know, ruminating and a little bit of hesitation and kind of figuring this all out. And so lightning strike, I hate that a calendar or not having a conversation with 4K partners or transportation. I don't want to feel like we're pigeonholed into making a decision tonight, even though I wish we would have been able to make this decision in January, right? So I'm the last person who wants to say, let's push this out. But at the same time, if January 5th is a viable option and there is an appetite for that, I don't want us to just be like, well, we can't do that because we didn't have the right information tonight. Sorry. Oh, okay. So again, this is out loud. This is brand new. This is real time, Heather. So you're getting it. But I just, that I'm struggling with the need because we have a calendar here to approve. Although I know Gina wanted, a calendar approved in October. So I'll stop there.
Go ahead, Leslie.
So the reason I'm supporting this is because I feel like it's a nice midway. And yes, there are going to be logistical things going on with this. No matter what way we look at it, whether we do it this fall in September, whether we do it in January or we do it next year, which is off the board now. So I'm looking at this as a good solution because we're talking 8 months out for people to make decisions. And yes, there's probably a childcare thing for some families that will still be an issue. But I think no matter what, we're going to have a childcare thing with some families that have an issue. I think this gives the district and all of our partners more time, which is what we've been saying as the concern, right? We've got that extra 8 months to actually put things in line. It gives the 4K families 8 months to understand that in 8 months, then they will switch schedules. It helps all of our students to understand. And yes, I understand the whole difference in classes that are just semester classes being different, and we'll have to work out those hours. And I know I have every faith in Gina to be able to do that. So I think our administration works really well together on this, and I really want to support them and understand that this is what we need to do for our students.
Go ahead, Mary.
So, and I'm going to ask your opinion. Sorry. So one thing that you had brought up was something that had crossed my mind as well, is would it be better to do this at the semester end? I'm looking at that, and that would shift it out to the 27th of January. But starting it on the 5th, there are really only 2 Mondays in January that aren't already either PD or no school days. So in your opinion, do you think that, starting it on January 5th or starting it on January 27th would make a significant difference?
It won't make a difference minute-wise. I would really look to Dr. Bergson's expertise as being an AP at a high school, because I was more thinking about if I were a teacher teaching a semester class and I had the schedule and I had the rhythm. I think that's my reluctance, is I don't know the answer to that. And so what we would normally do is talk to the OEA, talk to the staff, get their input. I also agree our staff are amazing and we will figure this out. My bigger concern is our 4K partners and not having any input from them on the feasibility of this, and then our transportation contractors. And I don't know enough about what that would mean to them and their difficulty in terms of them recruiting staff, recruiting drivers, recruiting teachers. I think it's just that I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I mean, I guess what I would say is that, we've had this from the start of who holds the burden of figuring things out. And where I always land is, I have a lot of confidence that we can do the work, and we've built up a lot of trust. I think the burden should be on the district, not on the families. That's where I'm at. And so I think if we try and look at a second semester start, and again, I'm going to continue to repeat this gives us an opportunity that's not the summer to work with partner organizations to help families that don't have options. PTOs, people could start partnerships and businesses to help families get their children to school so that it doesn't places a less burden on them in terms of getting to work and having another stressor for their child. I think the time is worth it. That's who we are as a district. That's my personal opinion, that we have built up enough trust, and it's also not completely final. If there are outstanding reasons why this doesn't work, the board can look at that and come back and make decisions, right? For me, it's worth it for our families, and it is a compromise. We are saying we support PLCs, but we're also saying, you know what, families, we listen to you, and we're going to try and help you, and we're going to come to this together. That's just my opinion. Other discussion? All right, Katie, please call the roll. Oh, sorry, go on.
I guess I'm also thinking of the comments we've heard about how challenging just the shift in schedule will be. And so I feel like a mid-year implementation doesn't allow for that to occur after being out for a summer and getting into a routine. So I hear what you're saying, Krista. I understand the rationale. I completely get it. This weighs very heavily on all of our shoulders. So So I'm really concerned about the unintended consequences of that, and but I don't disagree with the reasons you're stating them. So that's that.
Yeah, I mean, and like Steve said, there's never perfect solutions, right? And so as board members, we have to make the best decisions we can at that point in time. And so I think it's pretty clear that we all, this weighs very heavily on us. And so we all have to make it, we've come to the time where we've got to make a decision. And so you've got to vote the way that you need to vote, and everybody has a valid reason for their vote. And so that's why you're elected. So any other discussion? Okay, Katie, please call the roll on the amendment that is 2025-26 school year to start January 5th.
Ms.
Late
Garrison.
start to start January.
Sorry. Ms. Garrison.
Yes.
Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Ms. Bijak.
No.
Dr. Bush.
I'm gonna say no.
Dr. Lakuta.
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz.
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes, motion carries 5-2. Okay, so we have that amendment now. Ms. Jonan, how would you like us to proceed in terms of the calendar that is before us in terms of a calendar A?
I would say you have two options. One would be you could adopt calendar A as is in the packet. Or I would say you could amend that calendar to add a PD day on April 20th, because that professional development day aligns with our state law assessment requirements under Act 20 for our K-3 teachers. And I know that day would be, if you asked me between February and April, I would say the April date.
I'm sorry? Okay, go ahead and put your mic on.
I have a point of order that wouldn't we need to amend the calendar anyway, because the calendar shows late starts for every day of the Monday?
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right about that piece. I was just thinking about the PD piece. So you're right. I was assuming that previous motion had done that already. So, but yes, to be clear, you could move to adopt calendar A with the understanding that the late start had previously been approved for January 5th, so that would change. And then you could either add the April 20th as a PD day or not, or leave it alone.
My other question would be, do you need acting on a calendar tonight, given that this was a change that was not expected? And would you like something to come back to the next board meeting where you've gotten 2 weeks to think about that and present a calendar to the board at that point in time?
I don't.
Okay, so then I think we would look for a recommendation from either you coming with a recommendation here tonight that someone could then sponsor that motion.
So am I making a motion independent of the policy committee?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. I would make a motion to approve draft A of the 25-26 school calendar with the following changes. So Mondays, starting on January 5th, will have a 1 hour late start, and including April the 20th as a PD day. I think that's it.
All right, we have a motion and a second that makes the change to calendar A, which would be a 1 hour late start that begins on January 5th, and then a PD day on the 20th.
Of April.
Okay, point of order though, does that cover what a motion needs to be in terms of a calendar for 25-26? which also eliminates the late,
Yes,
so,
I feel that it does.
okay.
But
so-
you're the ones voting, so I want to make sure that there isn't confusion.
Right, and so I think what I'm asking Mary is, are you addressing August through December in your, December 25 in your motion? Because that assumed that Mondays would be late start in September, October, November, and December. So does your motion need to reflect the change for September through December plus what you indicated for 26?
It can, I just, in my own copy, inserted the words, Mondays starting on January 5th will have a 1 hour late start. But I'm happy to further clarify that Mondays, September through December will start at the regular school time. Is that
Okay.
helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
And then who was the second to that? Caleb, and you're fine with that? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Go ahead, Leslie.
Mary, can you talk to why you said April 20th?
So, in all of the lively conversations that we have had every year about the school calendar, I know that the April PD Day is a critical timing for OEA's conversations and preparation for the end of the school year, and looking forward. So that's why I accepted Gina's recommendation for April 20th, and I agree with it based on just historical conversations around that.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Heather.
I'm supportive of this. I just have one question for Ms. Jonan. I fully understand the April 20th preference given Act 20, given the things that Dr. Lakuta just said. My only thing to weigh out loud is, spring break occurs into April, and that is a nice thing from a, teachers, students having a break kind of throughout this school year, and that leaves February as a full month, which I think that's a real rarity, right? Without some sort of, non-school day or professional development day. So I know you've thought about it. I just, and clearly you have a recommendation, which I support. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I agree, and those were the exact conversations we had around Calendar B. And so it's always that balance that we all struggle with, right? And so if I were to ask the staff, and we do, right, that they say, please align our professional development with our assessment windows because of all of the things that we have to do. And so with the other side that, yes, that can be a very long time in the winter. I don't know when the snow days will be. Right, the first year we tried to have a February break, we had the 5 snow days. So, but yes, I agree. I know that's a lot of time for families in April. So it's really, the recommendation is based on the work that the staff needs to be doing under state law, and it's a significant amount of what they need to do. But yes, ideally, would it be better to have a planned break in February for other reasons? Yes, and at the end of the day, we are doing student-centered decision-making, and that's where we landed, that working on those reading plans for students K-3, that took the priority. So that's the reason for the recommendation, but you're absolutely right.
Go ahead, Leslie.
So continuing on the same thought process, that's a Monday, so that would be taking away another of our PLC days. Would it make more sense, or as much sense anyway, to make it on a Friday, still in April? Or is there something I'm not seeing?
So our recommendation is to go with Mondays because of the late start, that to get those instructional minutes back, right? That you're losing fewer minutes if the PD days become on Mondays. Then we also thought that would be better for families, that to have the full days on Monday than to have a week where you had a late start Monday and then a PD on Friday.
That makes sense, okay.
All right, any further discussion on the motion from Mary? All right, hearing none. Katie, please call the roll.
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to, right, we've finalized what we needed to finalize there, correct? Okay. Moving on to 3, issuance of 2025-2026 teacher contracts. So I will turn that over, I believe, to Ms. Jonan.
Okay, so it is that time of year when we start planning for the next school year from a staffing perspective. And so looking for the board to approve us to issue educator contracts for the 25-26 school year. By state law, they can only be one-year contracts. And by state law, they must go out by May 15th. And teachers have until June 15th to return them, although we ask them to return them as soon as possible or let us know their plans as soon as possible so that we can move forward on staffing.
Okay, I will entertain a motion about teacher contracts, or educator contracts, I'm sorry.
I'll make that.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on what is an annual motion on our calendar? Action item, I should say. All right, hearing none. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Moving on to issuance of 25-26 licensed non-represented contracts.
So looking for the same approval, and just to let you know, those are individuals that are not represented by the OEA under the collective bargaining agreement, but do have contracts with DPI, such as our school nurses, school psychologists, occupational therapists, etc.
All right, is there a motion? All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Motion from Leslie, second from Mary. Any further discussion? All right, I don't see any. So Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. And then moving on to the final action item, which is issuance of 2025-2026 administrator contracts.
So looking for the same approval here, but for contracts for the 25-27 school year, because under state law, administrator contracts can be up to 2 years, and then have language for a 1-year extension, which ours do.
Okay, I'll look forward to a motion being put on the floor.
I will make the motion for approving the issuance of administrator contracts for school years 25-27.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on administrator contracts? All right, hearing none. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you for all your work on that, Gina, you and your team, and contracts can go out. Okay, moving to D, discussion items, which is committees, which is usually an update, but since this is the end of a board calendar year, you will vote on a new president in 2 weeks, and then that president will have the honor of naming committee chairs. So look forward to those decisions from you in the future. Okay, so moving on to e-information items. First one is school board election updates. So I will turn that over either to Katie or Anna, who is our clerk.
I will take that one. So we did have an election, and I am going to report those results. In Area 1, we had 2 candidates who were running, and we had Nathan Hensel, who received a total of 4,898 votes, and Matthew Ledbetter also ran in Area 1, who received 4,241 votes. That does mean that Nathan Hensel will be joining the board with a 3-year term, which would extend from this month of 2025 through April of 2028. We also had an uncontested race in Area 2 with our incumbent, Leslie Wright, and I'm happy to report Leslie received a total of 8,352 votes and will continue to sit on this board to represent Area 2. Well, actually, our entire district, but from Area 2.
Good clarification. All right, thank you very much, and congratulations, Leslie and Nathan. Welcome to the board in 2 weeks. All right, moving on to visioning and strategic planning, teaching and learning update, and then superintendent's report. So, per usual, that is Dr. Bergstrom's land.
I think that the discussion that was just witnessed by people who are either here in the audience or at home connected to the start of the late start calendar was really a great example of what you see up here related to decisions being made in service of strategic priorities, using a decision-making framework, certainly is about community relations and communication. So I really think that that process has been the epitome of what we discuss related to our visioning and our strategic planning, basically how we make things happen for kids. And it certainly was a conversation in service of the priorities that you see here, specifically priority 1, the academic growth, readiness, and the physical and emotional well-being of our students. And obviously, also priority 5, collaboration with our families and community. And the additional PLC time we hope will be in service, we believe will be in service of the goals that you see here. So then we're going to get on to really the reason we do all of it, because the superintendent's report is always about the good things that are happening with and for our children. And the very first thing here is 4K registration. We spoke a lot about 4K tonight and our really tremendous partners and the families who are served by the program, the children served by the program, and how for many of them it's their first encounter with the school district. So if you have a child who will be 4 years old on or before September 1st of 2025, they're eligible to register for the 4K community-based program. And you can visit our website, you see it here on the screen, for enrollment information. We also have our kindergarten information meeting. That's coming up. So that is Thursday, April 17th at 6 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. It's for all families with students who are enrolling in kindergarten for the upcoming school year. And then we've had a lot of celebratory weeks recently. If you follow us on social media, you've seen this. April is Occupational Therapy Month, and we want to really thank our amazing OSD occupational therapists. We're really grateful for all they do to support our students, and we're very happy they're a part of the district. A 6-person team. A few years ago, I'm sure we weren't thinking we'd have a 6-person team, but we do. It's a part of growth. And we also want to thank our paraprofessionals, because April 2nd was National Paraprofessional Appreciation Day, but it was over break. Thankfully, there are opportunities to honor our paraprofessionals during our Staff Appreciation Week in May. So we'll definitely have more opportunities to do that. And then our really terrific associate principals, you see them here, our APs and our interns. We absolutely love them. And we thank them for everything they do every day to support kids. They are definitely people who are running fast every day, all day, to make sure they're doing the very best thing possible for our children. Thank you for that. And for our library team. So that's another celebratory. I told you there are a lot of celebrations, and I really wasn't kidding. So these are all of our librarians and our paraprofessionals who work in the libraries. So it's really a wonderful team that do so much to inspire a love of reading and fostering creativity and opening the doors to, really endless learning. And I don't know about you, but I can name all of my school librarians, because that was definitely a place where I wanted to be when I was a kid. So they meant a lot to me, and these wonderful professionals mean a lot to our kids. Allison Yeager, look at this, 2025 Cole Foundation Teacher Fellow. She was selected as the 2025 Herb Cole Educational Foundation Teacher Fellow. How amazing is that? I know. We all know she's great. We know the increased band numbers that she's been able to bring out with our kids, because she is so good. So thank you, Allison, for everything you do for our music students. And I'm really grateful that it was recognized in this manner. And speaking of recognition, we had a really great breakfast in here, in this room last week on Friday. No, it wasn't Friday. It was earlier than that. But it was filled with our drivers, and it was organized by our transportation director, Larry Mayo, who did a really nice little speech thanking everybody and, showing appreciation for the fact that our drivers are very often, actually almost always, the first person that our bus riders see connected to the OSD every day. And the greeting that they get and the personal attention that they get, that can make all the difference in the world. If those of you who have older children, ask them about the bus driver they had as a kid, and they'll probably have very, very warm memories of the time that they've spent with their drivers. And this is our little kindergarten play at Brooklyn. They performed a play on Eric Carle's book, A House for Hermit Crab. So congratulations to our little performers. They did a great job, as did our artists. So a huge thank you to all the students and families for the support and participation in the Wisconsin State Art Show. So their creativity and their talent and their dedication were really on display and were very inspiring. So we're part of our artists, excuse me, who shared their vision and hard work and their passion. And thank you to Mrs. Prawl for her dedication in helping all of our young artists showcase their work. And here we have Forest Edge and their Switcheroo Day. This is getting to be quite the thing. And that is a day that they always have a blast. Students had the freedom to choose their own adventure from a variety of exciting activities to enjoy: crafting, gaming, spa day, reading, fishing, basketball. There was really something for everyone. I'm a little curious about the fishing, but I know that is our friend Jackson, and he'll tell me what that was actually all about. It's a fantastic opportunity for students to engage with both staff and peers while exploring their interests. OMS, Technology Education, they're making tic-tac-toe boards. So that's really kind of cool. It was a hands-on activity that incorporates math, engineering, and art skills, along with a lot of planning skills and teamwork. So I'm excited to see their final product. And our middle school students are preparing for their musical. So the students at the middle school are getting ready for the production of Disney's The Lion King Jr. And so from practicing lines, prepping musical numbers, designing the sets, there's really roles for everybody who wants to do something connected to it. We can't wait to see the final production. It's April 25th through the 27th at the Oregon Performing Arts Center, and you can purchase the tickets at the Performing Arts Center website. And then in this room also, the High School National German Honor Society had, look at this large group of inductees. They had 23 juniors and seniors who were inducted into the National German Honor Society. It's really very prestigious as far as an honor, and it's supported by the American Association of Teachers of German. And inductees must maintain an overall GPA of 3.0 with 3.5 in German. So the ceremony was led by Frau Woshansky and Principal Herr Pleiner. Featured inspiring student speakers who shared their experiences, including reports on the recent exchange trip in Langdon, Germany. So very nice. Oh, and then this was really fun. This was a new thing, everybody. This was the Multicultural Fashion Show that was put on by the OHS Multicultural Club. And this was the Friday night before spring break. So that's a lot of dedication for the kids to come in on that Friday night and really showcase displays of cultures that are near and dear to their heart. Really grateful for all the adults who were a part of that, and for the students who really led the way, because a lot of this was through their leadership. So that was really exciting. And speaking of student leadership, this is our wonderful Hadley Stang. She's a senior, and she's been named the 2025 Student of the Year by the Wisconsin Association for Environmental Education. That's really something. Once again, this is a really prestigious award. It recognizes outstanding student involvement in environmental education and academic excellence. So her leadership, her passion for this subject, her commitment really helps her embody the spirit of this award, and we're really proud of her. And there was a recent Oregon Observer article for people who want to learn more. And then we have swimmers who've been named, I can't believe this, All-American by the National Interscholastic Swim Coaches Association. So to qualify for this award, students must maintain a minimum GPA of 3.75 on a 4-point scale for their entire 4 years. And there are over 350,000 high school students who participate in aquatics across 17,000 programs for our boys and our girls. And approximately 2% of these students earn this prestigious award. I know. So from Oregon, the swimmers selected were Catherine Dunn, Cole Konopacki, Kai Lynch, Garrett Metzger, Connor Nelson, Alex Palmer, and Austin Rhodes. Congratulations. Another apprenticeship spotlight. This one is on Josh, who works as an automotive technician apprentice at Verisea Service and Repair. And that courses that have contributed to this include Foundations of Technology and Engineering, Metal Technology, Welding, Auto Tech 1, and Small Engines. And he's also a part of the OHS construction crew building a house in our community. So clearly, Josh is a very busy senior. Way to go, Josh. And then our next one is Olivia. And Olivia is a certified nursing assistant at UW Health. And in order to do that, her capstone experience to lead up to this, she had to take biology 1 and 2, chemistry 1 and 2, and do clinicals. So Olivia has a CNA, CPR, and a first aid certification. Pretty great stuff, everybody. So if sophomores or juniors are interested in youth apprenticeship options, they should see their counselor or Miss D'Amelio. And as always, tune in to our podcast. But the next thing we have is a little more personal and a little specific to our outgoing president. So I'll kick this off, but I know that other people have words to share too. So first of all, you take great pictures, because there's pictures, a whole bunch of them, and here we go. There's good ones. Because Krista, you've been really a supporter of you were a supporter of using this particular quote at the high school, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I know it's because that's what you believe, but I'm not quite sure that you understand the extent to which you embody it. So you've served with many outstanding individuals. Here are some pictures to take you down memory lane. So that we have outstanding individuals who have collectively made very distinctively strong teams in service of students. And as a member of these outstanding teams, Krista stood out for her strategic thinking. She was always willing to be a champion for students, but also for strategies that led to great things happening for kids. So, for example, Krista has always been a champion for improved, inclusive communication that creates a connection and engagement with the community that we serve. That's an absolute area of passion. And initially, when she first got onto the board, this was a real area of focus, that we needed to have more streamlined communication that felt less siloed from school to school. I still remember our administrative team meeting that we had after Brian had the meeting with Krista, where she kind of showed him just how siloed we were. It was a great meeting, if clearly I'm thinking about it, 9 years later. She was a champion for adding our communications director, and we all know how well that worked out. So thank you very much, because she had a clear vision for what that position could do and what that position could bring. And that really was something that she brought to us, because we weren't thinking about that at the time. That was really a contribution that she made. And she was a leader in ensuring we had a clear and compelling vision for the things that we did and that we communicated that vision. And you see that on the screen here, right? Whether it was our values or portrait of a graduate, or it is about our overall strategic planning. Really, she helped us think through how to be strategic in all of this. And all of that, and she's also actually an excellent public speaker. So look at all these opportunities she's had to speak, because she speaks to all the new staff. She was speaking at the back to school assembly, and I never had to worry about what Krista was going to say or whether or not I had to give notes. She just went and she did it, and she was excellent every single time. So she always pushed us to think beyond our own insularity, right? That we can do education speak, we can slip into that very easily, and we can slip into what we know related to education without thinking about what needs to be communicated to others so that we're taking them along in the vision. And so I just wanted to make sure that this particular picture went with that particular statement. But second, she was also a champion for ensuring we had the resources to support students' mental health and well-being. That was very early on, and that stayed remarkably consistent, because very early on she asked a key question: what does the ideal mental health support system look like? And so we'll never reach our ideal. We're always working toward it, and research informs what ideal is, and so that we keep stretching and growing in that area. But what that question did is it gave us permission to think big. And so under her leadership, we've dramatically increased our awareness, our services, and our staffing related to supporting mental health. And then finally, she really is a champion for the students who need a champion. And of course, this work was a part of what we did on the board. That comes back to student-centered decision-making. But it also was part of the work she did for Friends of Oregon School District. I know that wasn't within her board capacity, but it really made a difference for the kids in the district and needs to be acknowledged as she moves on from her service to the district. Because what she was able to do with FOSD is an illustration of her approach to service in general. She never assumed she knew what the schools needed or what needs actually existed. She met with principals, she asked questions, and through that process, she and her generous FOSD colleagues were able to create and execute several next steps to serve and support students and families. And so it's not only doing the good things, but it's doing the good things the right way, where you're not making assumptions, you're asking questions that lead people to be a part of the solution. So I could spend a lot of time going on and on about the achievements that are a part of Krista's board legacy. But what's most critical to note is that every step of the way over the last 9 years, Krista Flanagan made us better. She made us a better system for all students. And most importantly, she made us a better system for our most vulnerable students, right? Another trip down memory lane here. She has been the change that we all need to see in the world, so thank you. I also have a plaque, but that's going to wait until after everybody talks.
Thank you. That was really special. So are we moving on to closing? Okay. All right. Future agenda. 2 weeks, people. The new board. Wish you well. Okay. Moving on to checkout. So who would like to go first?
Well, just a few words, and that that is hard to follow, or it's hard to follow that statement. So thank you, Dr. Bergstrom, for summing up so many of the achievements. Well, Krista, this is hard for me because you've been here with me for my entire service on this board, and it has been a tremendous journey with you. And I have appreciated your fellowship on the board as well as your friendship so much. And while our boardsmanship comes to an end, our friendship does not. I won't spend a lot of time about recognizing the contributions. That was summed up very well in Dr. Bergstrom's presentation, but it really goes, this community is a much better place because you have contributed to it. And you have been inspirational. You've been inspirational to me personally as how to be an excellent board member. And I will continue to strive to attempt to be as great as you've been. And you've proven that when you have smart people leading communities, you really have great communities. And I can't say enough about how great of a person you are, selfless, genuine, and compassionate. And you have carried that through all of the decisions that you've made and all the leadership that you've done here. You really stand out. Dr. Bergstrom's talked about your strategic mind, and it's just been a joy to work with you and to understand how you think 5 or 10 steps ahead of anything. And as we've made decisions, you've always challenged us to think about what the downstream impacts are. And we will continue to try to do that, even without you here at the table. And your visible impact is clear. We've seen that, but what isn't so obvious is all of the work that goes on behind the scenes, all of the pre-planning, the meetings, the phone calls, the emails, and just all of the stress that you put on yourself to do this job in a way that meets your high standards. And you have very, very high standards, and you have never relented and have always driven us to do better and do better for the kids in this community. So thank you for that. And you've had the courage to make some really difficult decisions along the way. And I know, you and I have had many conversations over those difficult decisions. You don't take anything lightly, but you've made the right decision for kids despite the controversy and sometimes even unnecessary personal attacks. So we've tackled some pretty challenging things together, and we're really going to miss you. But more than anything, I'm just grateful for our friendship and that will continue. So thank you, Krista. I wish you well.
Yes, and you are a force. I am grateful for your strategic way of thinking. I'm grateful for the direct but eloquent way that you speak. You have a deep level of caring. You have a commitment to social impact and belonging and all of the kids and families in this district. We are an incredible district, and you recognize that, but you've never given up on your wanting to move things forward, but in a way that honors how complex public education is, and in a way that brings the community and our partners with us. I have learned so much from you. From your leadership and the way that you've navigated challenges with poise and grace. We've come a long way since 2019 school start time conversations. There may have been a moment where you thought, no thanks, Steve Zock. She may not be a good fit, but you are leaving incredibly big shoes to fill, and you will be greatly missed.
So I wanted to just say thank you. I really genuinely appreciate your strategic and insightful vision, your ability to take the 30,000-foot view and just really think critically about what direction we need to head into in order to get where we should be for our learners. So I appreciate that. I also appreciate the mentorship and your leadership. I mean, the fact that I mean, we've all really come here with very limited previous experience, and just having your mentorship and leadership, hearing what you say at the school board meetings and outside the school board meetings has been very much appreciate. So thank you, and enjoy your family time.
I can't top any of that, but I do want to thank you for your mentorship and the multiple conversations we've had that you helped me work through different issues that we were going through in the board and helped me come to clarity about where I stood with things. Because as a board member, you can't necessarily talk with people on the same committee, right? So Krista was often there where I couldn't necessarily go to the same people that were on the committee that, and talk it through, because then that would be quorum, so we don't do that. Your leadership is inspiring, and we really appreciate how much you care and how your passion that comes through, sometimes in a very fierce way. But it's an amazing passion, and the way you channel it to, as everybody has said, strategic ways to help our community, to help our school district be better and take us to the next level. And we really appreciate it, and you will be incredibly missed.
My turn? No, I will I think, piggyback what everyone else has said. And also that you've been the president as long as I've been on the board, which is only 2 years. So it's not that long. But I think looking back on my 2 years, you played a really critical role in helping me join the board and made the transition much easier for me into this part of my life. Because it's a daunting challenge to take on when you take on a public leadership role like that. I completely believe in what we do. I think the other thing that I think I will say is that the discussion that we had tonight is reflective of, I think, the quality of leadership that you all offer as a board, and I think that's a direct reflection of Krista's leadership as well. In the conversation we had tonight, and I was thinking through things. And this is something that happens week in and week out when we meet. Krista says things that give me considerable pause and make me reflect on my position and, rethink things in ways that I necessarily hadn't thought of them before, which is fantastic, because that's where we, I think, as a group, grow and do better things for all the kids of our district. In my other life,
I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss your ability to just provide that for our board, provide that for our community, our families. I echo what everyone has said in this room. I have learned so much from you. I can't count the number of times I've said, Krista, thank you so much for your leadership. And I'll say it again, thank you so much for your leadership.
Okay, my turn. I wrote some things down because I just didn't want to forget it. But first of all, thank you for your kind words. It really means a lot. You're right. I mean, there's been a lot of hours and a lot of times and a lot of tough times. And sitting here right now, it makes it all worth it. But shockingly enough, I'd like to share a few words. So one of our 5 Oregon School District values is relevant and empowering learning experiences. And a critical component of that value is that learning is not just about kids in K-12. It's about our educators and our staff, it's about our families, and it's about our communities. Everybody is a learner. So along those lines, I'd like to share 3 things that I've learned in my tenure after 9 years on this school board and after founding Friends of Oregon School District. The first is, we don't get anywhere we're going alone. We just don't. So no matter who you are, what you do, nobody gets where they're going alone. And so thanks and gratitude are in order. As the 6 other board members sitting around this table know, if you want to be a really good board member, you got to put in the time. You have to understand school finance and school law. There's so much to read, research, active listening, discussion, debate. meetings and meetings and more meetings. Hundreds of hours if you do it justice, and thousands of hours if you do it long enough. It's important work and it's well worth it, yet it's time away from your family because it's evenings. And so I want to thank mine publicly, Scott, Aaron, and Sean. They've supported me and they've understood, and maybe they didn't always agree with it, but they understood my passion to do this work, my drive and the time commitment. So I can never express to them how grateful I am that never was it, oh, you're going to school board, it's mom's going to school board, or, yep, have a great meeting. And that's really important. To my close friends, your support and loyalty has been unwavering. And like as Troy mentioned, there have been some difficult times, and there have been people that have gone to them saying, do not support her. And they always had my back. They may not have agreed with the positions we took, but they always had my back. And so I hope I can be in their corner like they've been in mine. Steve was here tonight. To Steve, Courtney, Tim, and my husband too, former school board members. They listened, they helped me learn, they broadened my thinking. Each of them have made a contribution to this district and this community, and I think all of you know that when you sit on this board, there is a proud tradition of what it means to be an Oregon School District board member, and you all are carrying that, and I hoped I could carry that for them because they've been fabulous people, and as we all know, they've become dear friends of mine because there's no bonding quite like school board member bonding. There's a lot of really good things that we're able to do, but there are tough times. There are expulsion hearings when you are looking at that family and trying to understand and help and make decisions based on, I mean, those are really tough things, and we go through those together, but our hearts are all in the right place. Leslie and Caleb, one of the unique aspects of being an oldie who served on this board for long is you get the opportunity to watch new board members become more comfortable in their board member skin. You both bring really important perspectives and distinct points of view, especially because you're younger parents. You have kids in school, so you're getting this street level view of what's going on daily, and it's a really important viewpoint for this board. So what I would say is keep growing as board members by digging into that pre-work with the purpose of uncovering where you stand and what your positions are, and communicate that why. You're well on your way to being there, and you guys are fabulous board members. Anna and Mary, talk about, I mean, things that you said about smart, analytical, thorough. My learning has always been expanded when you've shared your thought process, your questions, and your hopes for what's next, be it small or substantial. You guys do the work, and it's so important, and you articulate that always in a way that's forward-looking and optimistic, and that's not easy to do. I've learned from you that I would like to be that. I can't always accomplish that, but you bring pragmatism, which is problem solving and action, and you always carry the staff flag. You always keep us cognizant of the educators in this room and those that are not in this room, and that it takes a toll to do this work, and we always have to remember what we're asking people to do. This is hard work, and you guys always make sure we know that. So that's really important. Heather, boards need members with courage of conviction, who process really quickly and aren't afraid to challenge ideas, who require next steps thinking and a push for better, which doesn't always have to mean more, it can mean more effective. Wearing that hat can be invigorating, but other times it's frustrating and it can be lonely. But the district is better for it, and so are our kids and families, so keep doing it. Troy, you have been an amazing thought partner and vice president. I can't envision sitting in this seat without you in that seat next to me. You're visionary and strategic, and you're calm. You're purpose-driven and positive, and you're calm. You are a great listener, and you have the ability to understand multiple and even opposing points of view and incorporate that information and feedback into better decision-making. If or when a decision is made that you occupy this seat, the district is going to be so fortunate to have you sitting here. So thank you. A second thing I've learned is communities are at their best when parents and grandparents and school board members and educators care about other people's children just as much as they care about their own. I have loved experiencing how this community celebrates the achievement of all of our kids, not just their own, and how we take time every meeting in the superintendent's report to acknowledge the important and fantastic work that is a connection between kids and educators. It's so important, and it's educators leading that success of our kids. Through FOSD, I've also seen how the school community lends a helping hand when it is most needed. Here we are $315,000 later of FOSD, and that is all coming from individuals in this community who said, I'm going to help. We can always do more, and there are community members who are there and ready to step up if they get the call. So there's a lot of passion about our school system. Most of it's very, very positive, and some is not. That's natural, and it's good. It's good because the worst thing is indifference. If people don't care about education, that's much worse than people caring about that we're not doing something well or not doing something for their kids. So always be thankful that it's not indifference. One thing I will say though, and probably people knew this was coming, but educating our kids is not a zero-sum game. It seems these days that there's a gravitational pull to define things according to a ledger that if somebody gets something, it must mean something's taken away from somebody else. We are not in the winners and losers business. A school district is not a teeter-totter, that when somebody goes up, somebody must go down. We are in a business that is a catapult. Every kid has the opportunity through the work that we all do to go somewhere. And because somebody's going somewhere, it doesn't mean somebody can't go there. There's so much room for us to get different places for our kids. Rejection of that pull, largely from entities and playbooks outside of our community, is more important than ever. It's really important. Through the hundreds of thousands of dollars we raise to help students through FOSD, I know our community believes that authentically every child deserves a champion, or we wouldn't have that as had that as our call to action, or there wouldn't have been the support we experienced. So I really want to thank the community members that stand up for that principle, that every kid deserves a champion. And finally, speaking for champions for our kids, here's my third and final part of my remarks. It is just not possible to put into words how much heart and soul and professional expertise and work and caring that our OSD team of educators and staff put into work each and every day of helping our students grow and achieve and thrive. To say that they are dedicated to our kids is the understatement of the century. So it's important for me to take a few minutes to thank those that I've worked with closely, because like I said last night, I can be a lot. And, tonight's difficult, right? The board throws you a loop. And as an organization, I've been in an organization that had boards. Boards are interesting entities. And so I want you to know, and kind of as my last comments to you, how much you've meant to me and what I appreciate in you and how good you are at your job. Leslie, you have an exceptional ability to see positive rays of light framed in an intelligent and caring way forward, and it's a model. And we've talked about that in our meetings. That is something that you do so well. Your steadiness in what is one of the toughest jobs around, being a superintendent, is really admirable, and your commitment to this district is really exceptional. I once heard somebody say, you can be the most creative, innovative, intelligent, strategic, and yet the single most important thing to do as a leader is show up for your people. And you do that every day. People know, and kids know, and parents know you will show up. So thank you. Katie, poor Katie. She started with me as a sport parent. She was my daughter's volleyball coach, and then I was clerk, and then I was president. Poor Katie. She had to put up with me for a long time and a lot of different things. That's a lot more than anyone should have to take in a 12-year period. But I really want to make sure you're thanked for your exceptional organizational skills and keeping the board organized, elections running smoothly, which is no joke. There's a lot of detail there, and everything you do every day that sometimes goes unnoticed. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and thank you for everything you've done. Andy, anyone who understands and loves school finance as much as you do and does it as well as you do for as long as you've done is a hero in my book. People do not understand, and it's often taken for granted, the exceptional financial shape of this district and how you've managed to make our dreams and our directives and our desires financially feasible. It's incredible to think about the things that we've been able to do and the money that you've been able to find or find a way to make it work. Your advice, you're a big member of this community. So, my job as board member or board president wouldn't be possible with what you bring to our table to allow us to make dreams happen for kids and teachers. So thank you. Gina, one of my favorite things that Gina always says is, when I call her about something, she's like, I always assume positive intent. I'm like, I'm sorry, Gina. She's like, I always assume positive intent. Talk about a plate and a platter and what you bring to this district in terms of legal, HR, all the things that you do. Talk about difference makers in this district. I think about what the district was like before you came here and where we are today, and the way that you navigate what you do to protect our kids and to make sure that they have the resources and things that can help them in some of the most vulnerable situations. You are always looking out for our kids, and we've had some pretty difficult situations where you've had to stand up to some pretty important people because that was the right thing to do for our kids and their rights and what they deserved. So I'm in awe of you too. You are an amazing person. Erica, there is a reason that district communication was the most highly rated thing in our parent survey last week. It's because of you. You are so smart. You are so thoughtful. You know that we have to bring parents along in what we do. And this district, I think Leslie mentioned it, we were waiting for somebody like you because we have stories to tell. And the stories we do tell every time in the superintendent's report, that is almost as important as what's happening to make that happen. That we have got to continue to tell our story because people need to know the amazing things that are happening with their kids and our teachers every day. Shannon, boy, did we make a good decision when we decided to make that position in terms of we really needed somebody dedicated to the mental health and wellness of our kids. And thank you for taking that position and really bringing to the forefront that we all have mental health. Right? We all have mental health, and it's really important to keep an eye on that, and there are things that we can do to make that better, but there are also things that we have to do to help kids, because when they are not equipped to learn because of something that's out of their control, it's our job to help them learn. It's really important work, and you do it beautifully, so thank you. Candace, boy, I tell you, somebody that had not only a platter, but a platter and a suitcase, and student services and special ed, and you carried that beautifully for so many years and just did the work. And I don't think people understand what other districts deal with in terms of if special ed services are done wrong. You manage that department beautifully, and that's one of the most important things we do. And it is also why parents move to this district, because they know that if they have students that have special needs, they're going to thrive here. So you have a gift. Thank you for doing what you do every day. John and Darcy, tough job. Talk about, I know somebody had a conversation with my husband the other night because he used to be a board member way back in the day, and the conversation was about, was it always this hard? And the answer was no, because there were local control of school districts in terms of what we could do for our kids. Think about how that has changed and how that has impacted your position in curriculum instruction in terms of people making decisions about how our kids should be taught, what they should be taught. And you guys do that in a creative way. You bring people along, and it's a really tough job. So thank you for doing that beautifully. And really, we've had tough conversations over the years, just in terms of how much our kids are growing and achieving. And it's not because of the work that you do, it's because we just want so much more. And so thank you for doing everything you do to get us there for our kids. School teams, principals, associate principals, admin interns, leadership teams, educators, staff, coaches, volunteers. Thank you for everything you do. And I hope, as I've sat in this seat, that you feel like I've supported you and believed in you and the work that you've done. You are a blessing to this community. As a parent, I could never say enough about the education that my kids have received. But before I end, there is one other person I want to specifically mention, and sometimes she watches school board meetings, sometimes she doesn't, and that's Amy Miller. When we started FOSD, Amy was the guiding star. She knew what kids needed. She knew that when we did our listening sessions and we found out that kids were hungry, or kids didn't have transportation, or kids didn't have access to after-school transportation or access to internet, we said, Amy, what do we do? Start with food. Start with food. And that was the way that this community was brought together, about understanding that we have students that have more needs, and that if kids are hungry, they can't learn. So Amy has been a guiding star for me and a role model and a mentor. And she was the change that I saw was possible, because with Amy, anything is possible. You get the right people in the room, anything is possible. So I really wanted to thank Amy as I sit in this space. So In closing, I want to thank the community and the families for their support of the Oregon School District, your support of me in the role of school board member, and for everyone's support of Friends of Oregon School District as it transitions back to the Oregon Area Education Foundation. It's truly been a gift to play a small role in making sure we're all doing what we can so that each one of our kids have opportunities and experiences available to them to achieve their paths forward. The work continues for all of you, and I'll be cheering you on from afar. So thank you. All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second.
I'll make this.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We're adjourned at 8:55. Thanks, everybody.